Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're taking a deep dive into the world of Python.
Ooh, exciting.
It is right. We'll be exploring this book called Python for Teenagers, a step-by-step guide to learning Python.
I've heard good things about that one.
Yeah, and you know what really hooked me? It's so approachable. Like, it doesn't feel intimidating at all.
That's key, right? Especially for beginners.
Absolutely. They even sprinkle in some Monty Python references, which I thought was a fun touch.
Keeps things lighthearted.
Exactly. And speaking of Python, this language consistently ranks as a top choice for programmers.
No surprise there. It's incredibly versatile.
So true. Whether you're into web development, data science, or even automating tasks, Python can handle it.
Oh, and don't forget its role in cutting-edge fields like, machine learning and AI.
It's mind-blowing to think about all the possibilities. And here's another thing. The Python community is huge.
Massive. It's like a global support system.
Right. Think Stack Overflow, open source libraries, tons of resources at your fingertips. It's a game changer, especially for those just starting out.
Definitely. So let's get down to the basics. The book starts with the essentials. A computer, internet, and of course, Python itself.
The foundation.
The book walks you through the setup, which seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah, but I'd highly recommend a good code editor like Visual Studio Code.
VS Code, good choice. I remember using a basic text editor at first, but a dedicated code editor is a lifesaver.
Oh, for sure. Features like code highlighting and debugging make a world of difference.
Speaking of beginnings, remember the thrill of running that first Hello World program?
Ah, a classic. It's such a satisfying feeling to see your code actually work.
It's like you're speaking the computer's language.
And the book breaks it down nicely, explaining how that simple print function displays text.
Then we move on to variables, those storage containers for information.
Think of them like labeled boxes holding different types of data.
The book calls them storage boxes, such a great analogy.
It is. And Python is super flexible with these boxes thanks to its dynamic typing.
Dynamic typing, what's that?
It means you don't have to explicitly declare the type of data a variable will hold.
So no need to specify if it's text, a number, or whatever.
Exactly. Python just figures it out based on the value you assign.
It's like Python saying, don't sweat the small stuff, I've got this.
That's a great way to put it. Python takes care of the details so you can focus on the logic of your code.
Awesome. So we've got our program saying hello world, and we have our variables storing information. But how do we make the program make decisions?
Decisions. That's where conditional statements come in.
Like, if this happens, do that, otherwise do something else.
Precisely. We're talking if, else, and elif statements.
I love how the book compares it to those choose-your-own-adventure games.
Oh yeah, those were fun. You pick a path and the story unfolds differently.
Exactly. So if the player chooses left, the program runs one set of instructions. But if they choose right, it goes down a whole different path.
Brilliant way to explain it. It highlights how those conditional statements guide the program's flow.
And let's not forget indentation in Python. Those spaces at the beginning of lines, they're crucial.
They are indeed. Unlike some languages that use brackets and semicolons, Python uses indentation to create visual blocks of code.
I'll admit, indentation tripped me up at first, but it makes sense. It keeps the code organized and easy to read.
It's like the language is encouraging you to write clean, structured code.
Which is so important, especially when you're starting out and things can feel overwhelming.
Couldn't agree more. Python's emphasis on readability is a big part of why it's so popular, especially for beginners.
So true. It's like Python wants you to succeed from the very beginning.
Exactly.
And on that note, let's take a quick break, and we'll be back to explore even more cool Python features in just a bit.
Sounds good. All right, so we've covered the basics. Now, ready to dive into some of Python's more advanced features.
Oh yeah, bring it on. I'm ready to level up my Python game.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of list comprehensions?
List comprehensions, I've seen them, but they kind of look like a secret code.
Uh-huh. I know what you mean. They can seem a bit intimidating at first, but they're incredibly powerful.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So imagine you want to create a list based on some existing data, maybe a range of numbers.
Okay, got it.
With a list comprehension, you can do that in just one line of code instead of writing a whole for loop.
Whoa, that's efficient.
Exactly. It's like saying, give me a list of all even numbers from 1 to 10, and Python just, boom, does it.
No more messy loops, just elegant, concise code.
Exactly. And you can even add filters to your list comprehensions using conditional statements.
So you could say, give me all even numbers from 1 to 10, but only if they're greater than 5.
You got it. It's super flexible.
The book also mentions dictionary comprehensions and set comprehensions. Is it the same idea, but for dictionaries and sets?
You're catching on quickly. Yeah, it's the same concept applied to those other data structures.
Python's all about efficiency, huh?
Absolutely. It loves making things concise and readable.
Speaking of concise, what about lambda functions? Those sound kind of mysterious.
Lambda functions. They're like the ninjas of the Python world. Small, anonymous, and super efficient.
Anonymous. Do they wear masks?
Not quite. It just means they don't have a formal name like regular functions do.
So when would you use one of these lambda ninjas?
When you need a simple function for a one-off task, you don't want to define a whole separate function.
So it's like a shortcut for creating functions on the fly?
Exactly. You use them once, and then they disappear, like a true ninja.
Okay, onto a topic that always makes my head spin a bit: recursion. The idea of a function calling itself.
Recursion, yeah, it can be a bit mind-bending at first, but it's a super useful technique.
Like those infinite reflections you see in mirrors facing each other.
That's a perfect analogy.
Right?
But with recursion, we need to make sure it doesn't go on forever.
Right. We don't want an infinite loop. Our program would crash.
Exactly. We need a base case, a condition that tells the function when to stop calling itself.
So it's like saying, okay, after 3 reflections, stop looking in the mirror.
Precisely. It's all about setting boundaries.
Recursion is definitely one of those things that takes practice to really get.
It is, but once it clicks, it's like a superpower.
The book also mentions first-class functions. What does that even mean?
Good question.
Mm-hmm.
It means that in Python, functions are treated just like any other data type, like numbers or strings.
Wait, so you can store functions in variables?
Yep. And you can pass them as arguments to other functions, even return them from functions.
That's crazy. Functions are like VIPs in Python.
That's a great way to put it. It gives you so much flexibility in how you structure your code.
My mind is officially blown.
It's a lot to take in, I know. But hey, that's the beauty of Python. There's always something new to learn.
True. Speaking of new things, let's talk about object-oriented programming, OOP, as the cool kids call it.
OOP, yeah. It's all about modeling real-world entities in your code.
Like creating virtual versions of people or cars.
Exactly. With OP, you create these blueprints called classes, which act as templates for creating objects.
Okay, so a class is like the blueprint for a house.
Perfect analogy. And each object is like a specific house built from that blueprint.
So my 2-story Victorian house with the red door, that would be an object.
Precisely. Each object can have unique characteristics even though they're based on the same class.
So why is OOP so beneficial? It seems like an extra layer of complexity.
It is, but for good reason. It helps organize your code, especially when you're dealing with large projects.
Makes sense.
Plus, it promotes code reuse through inheritance. You can create new classes based on existing ones.
So you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time.
Exactly. You can inherit properties and behaviors from parent classes.
Kind of like a family tree of classes.
I like that.
Yeah.
And to set up these objects when they're created, we use constructors,
Constructors.
special methods within a class that initialize an object with the right values when it's born.
Like making sure the house has all the necessary plumbing and wiring before anyone moves in.
Exactly. Constructors ensure everything is in place from the get-go.
OOP sounds powerful, but let's not forget about error handling.
Right. No matter how good we are, mistakes happen. And in programming, those mistakes can lead to crashes.
We need to be prepared, like having a backup plan.
Think of it as defensive programming, anticipating potential issues and handling them gracefully.
Defensive programming, I like that. It's like wearing a helmet while coding, just in case.
Exactly. Better safe than sorry. All right, are you ready to talk about the exciting projects outlined in this book?
Oh yeah, let's get to the fun stuff. I'm ready to build something awesome.
All right, let's dive into those projects. You mentioned the text-based adventure game, right?
Oh yeah, that one definitely caught my eye.
It's a classic for a reason. You get to combine storytelling with coding, which is super fun.
I'm already picturing a world with hidden treasures and challenging puzzles.
I love it. And you'll be using all sorts of Python concepts to bring that world to life.
Like what?
Well, you'll use conditional statements to create branching paths based on the player's choices.
So like if the player goes north, they encounter a troll, but if they go east, they find a magical sword.
Exactly. And you'll use loops for repetitive actions, functions to organize your code, maybe even classes to represent characters or items.
It's like weaving together all these different elements to create a truly interactive story.
And as you get more comfortable with Python, you can add even more complexity to your game.
Ooh, like what kind of complexity?
Think inventory systems, character stats, dialogue trees. The possibilities are endless.
That's so cool. Now, for those who are more into logic and numbers, there's the command line calculator project.
Ah, yes, another classic. Building a calculator is a fantastic way to solidify your understanding of operators, functions, and user input.
It's amazing how something we use every day can be such a great learning tool for programming.
It is. You'll need to think about how to handle different math operations, make sure the calculations are accurate, and design a user-friendly interface.
Sounds like a fun challenge.
And then there's the Web Scraper project, where you'll tap into Python's power for gathering data.
Web scraping, that sounds pretty advanced.
It might sound intimidating, but Python makes it surprisingly easy.
So what can you do with web scraping?
Imagine automatically extracting information from websites like product prices, news headlines, weather data, anything really.
It's like having a digital assistant that can sift through tons of information and bring back exactly what you need.
Exactly. Python libraries like Requests and Beautiful Soup make it a breeze to download web pages and extract specific data.
So you could build a tool that tracks the price of your favorite sneakers and alerts you when there's a sale?
Exactly. Or you could scrape data about upcoming concerts in your city and create a personalized event calendar.
The possibilities are endless, and what's even cooler is that you can then take that data and do all sorts of things with it.
Like analyze it, visualize it, even use it to build other applications.
Speaking of visualizations, the book introduces Matplotlib, a Python library for creating charts and graphs.
Matplotlib is awesome. It's like turning raw data into a story that's easy to understand.
Because sometimes numbers alone don't tell the whole story.
Right. Data visualization helps us uncover trends, patterns, insights that might be hidden in plain sight.
And with Matplotlib, you can create all sorts of visuals to make your data come alive.
Exactly. Bar charts, pie charts, scatter plots, you name it.
Now, for those who are ready to tackle a more complex project, there's the CRU'd application with a file database.
Ah, yes, the CRU app.
Mm-hmm.
CRUD stands for Create, Read, Update, Delete.
So it's all about managing data, right?
Yep, precisely. You'll build an application that can handle these basic operations on a dataset stored in a simple file.
So it's like a mini data management system.
You got it. It's a great introduction to working with databases, a fundamental skill in many programming fields.
I'm starting to see how all these projects build upon each other, introducing new concepts and skills step by step.
That's the beauty of this book. It's a carefully crafted journey that takes you from novice to confident Python programmer.
And it's not just about theory, it's about actually building things, which is so important.
Absolutely. There's no better way to learn than by doing.
So what happens after someone finishes this book? Where do they go from there?
The journey doesn't end there. Python is a vast language with tons of libraries and frameworks to explore.
It's like opening a door to a whole new world of possibility.
Exactly. And the Python community is incredibly welcoming and supportive, so you're never really alone on this journey.
It's amazing to think that learning Python could open so many doors, both personally and professionally.
It really can. Python is used in so many different industries, from web development to scientific research to artificial intelligence.
So whether you're a teenager just starting out or someone looking to switch careers, Python is a valuable skill to have.
No doubt about it. And Python for teenagers provides a fantastic foundation for anyone who wants to learn this amazing language.
So if you're ready to embark on your own Python adventure, I highly recommend picking up this book.
You won't regret it.
And with that, we wrap up our deep dive into the world of Python.
It's been a pleasure exploring this with you.
Me too! Until next time, happy coding, everyone!